Hey, NerdHerd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again as we enter week 3, talking about this past week of Dynasty Fantasy Football. What San Francisco running back is there the own for the future? Is it Elijah Mitchell? Is it Trey Sermon?
How about my boy Mike Williams?
It's only been 5 years of pumping him up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll look at some week 2 studs, some week 2 duds, and what's their future outlook.
So much more to talk about in week 2, and we actually got through with not a ton of injuries. Let's get into this dynamic episode.
Ready, set, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson. Here are my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garrett Bryce.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Matt's here. He's alive.
Hey, he's back.
I'm back. I'm off the COVID list. I'm at like 73%.
So you'll be on like limited snaps?
I'm on limited snaps for sure.
Okay.
But you're here. That's the most
But I'm
important
here.
part.
Yep. I'm feeling much better than I did. the past
Another
2 weeks.
COVID survivor. It's no joke, as I'm sure you could testify.
It's definitely no joke, man. It knocked me on my butt for a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's got one of our good friends in the community. Mike Tagg still got him out. You know,
So sad.
God bless him. Hopefully everything works out for him.
Yep. Thinking about you, for sure.
Yeah, so good to have you back. Here we are in week 2. A lot of stuff to talk about, as always, when it comes to in-season Dynasty Fantasy Football talk. And, of course, after this episode, we'll give you all of our Dynasty buys and sells of the week in our NerdHerd episode. And remember, if you're a NerdHerd member, not only do you get great access to the Dynasty Nerds film room, the rookie rankings, all the tools we offer in the Dynasty GM, which literally has 10 different tools inside it itself, but then you get the bonus podcast. And we switched up the NerdHerd episode that we are going to give you our weekly buys and sells. So everybody loves to buy sell episodes, right?
Right.
We give you that every single week in the Nerd episode. We each give you one buy and one sell in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And it's interesting, this week Matt and I have the same guy. I have him as a buy, you have him as a sell.
I have him as a sell. Yep.
So it's a
debate.
it's a nice little perk on there. Get
Actually, that was like the
nice.
nicest debate ever. So
All right, well, check it out. Get nicer. Hey,
I wanted you to be a little more ruthless. I mean,
I'm not built that way.
fisticuffs.
No. I'm a big.
He
giant teddy
knows better. No.
You're going to learn today.
Even at 73%, y'all can't take me, man.
Garrett, let's get him.
Get him, sick him.
So before we get into this week, let me talk about our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. Come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus only on the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based on how likely that is going to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool, and their prize pools are great. And right now, if you use the promo code NERDS when you sign up today, this is what happens. New users who deposit $10 get one free $15,000 guaranteed Thursday night football ticket. New users who deposit $50 plus get one free $15,000 guaranteed Thursday night football ticket plus one free $50,000 guaranteed Sunday ticket. All users who enter the $15,000 Thursday night contest 5 times or enter $100 worth of prop lobby entries and get one free $50,000 guaranteed Sunday ticket. Plus, on top of that, you get 100% instant match up to $100. So if you put in $100, literally the moment you put in $100 and use that promo code NERDS, you will have $200 to wager and gamble on in Thrive Fantasy. After Thursday, the Thursday tickets and the promotion switch over to Sunday. So there's still a lot of opportunity there. Get a lot of good opportunity for free money here in Thrive Fantasy with that promo code NERDS. Download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store or Play Store or by visiting their website, www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today. I use it every single week. It's a total fun way to get out there and just make some prop bets, like all over-unders. I'm 0-2 so far on the week in my $20,000 entries, but that's why with that $100 free money, I'm still going.
Yeah, you're bad at it, but you're still
Still having
having a good time. Yep.
I'm finding my way. All right. I once was lost, but hopefully soon I'll be found.
Yep. Hopefully
So
soon.
let's get into, of course, every week we got to start off with some injury news here. Start off the week with Amari Cooper's got the rib injury. Chance he's going to play Monday night, but risky if you don't have that Monday night backup. Usually the rib injuries incorporate how much pain can you tolerate.
It is a big-time pain tolerance, and it's going to be a theme throughout this kind of injury report here. But, yeah, we'll see. Amari Cooper, I mean, you would think a wide receiver would be able to play through that as long as they're not getting hit in the ribs or anything like that. There's not too much. You get a shot, obviously, a little bit of pain shot. And you go on about your day. As long as you don't get hit hard, you should be able to play through it.
I'd feel a lot better, though, if he was playing Sunday at 1 o'clock than that Monday night. Like those questionable Monday night ones are always tough.
Yeah. So if you don't have a backup, unfortunately, you might have to play somebody else other than Amari Cooper coming up this
Wilson
week.
might be on the waiver wire.
Yeah, and move them to your flex. They're playing the Eagles, so there might be an Eagle that you might not normally start or something like that might be able to fill in.
Yeah,
So
Watkins,
Quez Watkins, or
somebody
maybe
like that.
you're super deep at wide receiver and you're like, oh, I got Devonta Smith and Amari Cooper. You can wait and see to the last minute who you're going to play. So, but I hate the Monday night injuries. Those are scary.
It is a bummer.
All in all, we got through this week without losing anybody for the year, so it's
true.
That's always a huge bonus. Tua Tagovailoa, rib injury, a little bit worse it seems than Amari Cooper's. Week to week with outside chance he'll play this week. It didn't seem too great there for Tua. Do you think he puts a helmet on this week and plays a little football?
He looked like he was in a lot of pain.
I was worried because I saw it without. It was on the Red Zone channel. I was watching the Browns game, and I had the Red Zone channel on my iPad next to me, so I couldn't hear what was going on. And I thought it was hip, because it looked like a lower rib type of thing. And I was like, oh gosh, not the hip again. And then obviously the news came out that it was a rib injury. So, I mean, you're relieved when you hear something like that when it could be much worse. But for a quarterback, like conversely from a wide receiver, a quarterback, you're torquing that torso every single time you throw the ball. So that makes it, I think, a lot more difficult for a rib injury in a quarterback to kind of play through it. We'll see, but I would expect that Jacoby Brissett's playing this game, and I'm just going to move forward that way, thinking that way anyway.
But you also have to remember that that's going to affect guys like, do you start Jalen Waddle or not?
Right.
Do you like some of those fringe guys, Mike Gesicki hasn't played great so far. You might be desperate at tight end
game
now.
this week, but I mean, if Brissett comes in, maybe that's a little bit. Maybe it helps. Brissett looked terrible when he came in.
He did not look good.
I
I wouldn't want to start any pass catcher for the Dolphins.
Like that guy Brissett has just like completely fallen off the map as a guy that was potentially, thought of, hey, this guy could be a starter there with the Colts a couple of years back, to being one of these backups that you almost don't wish is going to make it onto the field. So that's kind of a bummer, but I'm totally with both of you guys. I'm not confidently starting any of those guys at this point. Any wide receivers. If
Fuller,
if
it's his
Brissett.
first week back.
Yeah.
Parker. If I'm desperate, I guess, but I don't want to start Parker either.
No. All these ribs, no barbecue. 49ers running backs, Elijah Mitchell sprained his shoulder, but he's likely going to be a go, which is great news. JaMychal Hasty, high ankle sprain, which means he's out 5 to 6 weeks. And then Trey Sermon, inactive last week, comes in this week, gets a carry.
One carry.
Did he hurt himself banging his head against the ground after he fumbled? Or what happened?
When did the concussion happen? That's a good question.
Big heavy metal fan, apparently. He's head banging all over the place.
One carry.
That's a bad start to your career. Not playing at all the first week, inactive for the guy who was drafted 3 rounds behind you, and then 1 carry, fumble, and concussion.
Yeah.
That might be the worst start to a career I've ever heard. That's sad.
Things are not looking good for the start of Trey Sermon. He had some injury concerns coming out of Ohio State, was a big concern, and that's why I have a lot of Elijah Mitchell shares. I said, it kind of goes back to like the Aaron Jones take when that happened, when it was Aaron Jones and the turd Ferg in front of him, and everybody was taking him into first. And I was like, why take him when you just take Aaron Jones out of UTEP? Same thing. Why not take Elijah Mitchell, who looked explosive and can get to the outside, then over Trey Sermon? Not saying Trey Sermon's. I'm not patting myself on the back like this is true yet, but like things aren't starting out with Trey Sermon. He was inactive week 1.
So we were talking before the show, and you had mentioned the fact that you were on the clock in a draft that we were both in, and everyone thought you were going to take Trey Sermon, and you said, I'm just going to take the better running back, and you went with
Michael Carter.
Michael Carter. And I ended up picking 2 spots, I think, behind you, and I did end up getting Trey Sermon. I definitely would have made the same decision you made as well. He was just the guy that fell to me, but I made sure, like hell, to get Elijah Mitchell 2 rounds later, just in case. And it was one of those things where I just know that in a Shanahan system, he's so I guess I don't know how to say that. It's volatile. Who he's going to start week to week. So you never really know who's going to get that opportunity, and whoever gets the opportunity is likely to run with it and have a good week. So, and we saw obviously Elijah Mitchell in week 1 have that explosive kind of go at it. Obviously, week 2 was a little bit different, but he was banged up a bit. So we'll see what's going forward. What's going to happen going forward with Elijah?
I would
Mitchell.
still feel pretty good about starting him this week, just simply for the fact that there is no one else.
Yeah, I feel real good about
They
starting
don't
this week.
have anyone else to put in.
They just signed a guy off the XFL roster, and he was like on the Bengals practice squad, and he's like a 230 pound, like 6'2", 230 pound guy. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head.
I hadn't even heard that yet. I just heard about Duke Johnson and Lamar Miller coming in.
They brought those guys in for visits, and we're like, no, we're going to sign this guy off the taxi squad off the Bengals.
That's where they're at.
That's
Duke
where
Johnson
those.
got called the Jaguars practice squad.
Yeah, those guys are glue factory, by the way.
I just want to mention before we lose that thought is like you also want to check your waiver wire. You will want to see because he'll be back in probably in about 3 weeks. Jeff Wilson to see if he's on your waiver wire.
Yeah,
because he might offer some upside. He's had success in this offense, but I do like the way Elijah Mitchell's looked so far. But
would you buy Trey Sermon low?
I don't think there's a low price for him.
Jaquez Patrick is the guy's name.
Jaquez.
He sounds French.
Oui.
Ooh, where? Okay. Don't stand up. So, I mean, would I buy Trey Sermon low? I'm not. What's low? A second round pick?
3rd round pick.
Nobody's selling Trey Sermon for a 3rd round pick.
You likely had to draft him in the 2nd round. I would be surprised if you would immediately give him up for a 3rd round pick because he is a lottery ticket still.
2/3.
Yeah.
Can I get him for Ronald Jones? If I got Ronald Jones, I'm one of those
You
guys.
might be able to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Honestly,
if
you
I
might
give
be
him,
able to.
I would trade anything for Ronald Jones. We talk about Ronald Jones in the NerdHerd episode today.
Yeah.
So,
And last week, we just don't like him.
yeah, not a big fan. So it's weird. But right now, Elijah Mitchell's the guy. Trey Sermon, concussion. Maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe not. But, I mean, right now, I know they traded up for him, but I'm not. I mean, it's going to be hard to get real excited for him because you got to be the guy. And Shanahan will stay with the guy who's running well. And if it's Mitchell and he's healthy, it's just these guys in San Francisco can't stay healthy.
No, and obviously the thing that Elijah Mitchell brings to the table is speed. He's a fast guy, and he can put his foot in the ground and go. That's really not Trey Sermon's game. He's more of a grinder. So they are different backs, and if Shanahan favors Mitchell's style, he's probably closer to Raheem Mostert. Mitchell is. Than Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
So
Trey Sermon's
speed to
closer
get the
to
outside zone
Jeff
run.
Wilson.
That's why I liked Michael Carter more in the first place. I like the system they run. I liked him in the outside zone. They were going to run there in New York with the big tackles. Obviously, Mekhi Becton's down for a little bit. I really like Michael Carter. He looked good this week for the Jets too, and his carries led the team in carries. So, situation: would I trade for Trey Sermon? No, because I don't think the cost has gone down whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, at this rate, it's going to continue to drop, and I'm still probably not going to buy. If the price was a 3rd round pick, yeah, I'd gamble there because I don't appreciate 3rd round picks as much as most, but that's about it. Carson Wentz, sprained ankles. That's right.
Both.
That's right.
Both.
That's right.
Ankles. It's not an ankle and a cankle on the same leg. No, it's 2 separate ankles, both feet. Yeah. That was a good sound effect, by the way. For the people watching the video, that worked.
Check out the YouTube video. Get a good expression there of Garrett. Only Carson Wentz would sprain both ankles on the same play. I mean, only Mr. Injury himself. I mean, we literally had a long conversation about this.
Yep.
About on the podcast. We were talking about Carson Wentz, how much you love him, and we're talking about I'm like, well, it doesn't matter, he's gonna be hurt. And you're like, well, we don't know that. I'm like, I will play longer than Carson Wentz does before he gets hurt. Here we are, week 2. Dude sprained both ankles.
He already had a bone removed from his foot.
But to be fair, timeline in week 2. He's had a bone removed from his foot, which caused weaker pressure on his feet, and now he's crumpling at the ankles.
But to be
the
fair,
Leaning Tower of Wentz.
He came back much quicker than expected from the bone.
It's moving its way up. Pretty soon it's going to be the knees and then the back and then his shoulders
the knee
gone. And he's
bone's
screwed,
connected
man.
to the.
What happened to his ankles? They both went inward.
Quarterback 16 right now. That's all I'm saying. Quarterback 16, And there's still a decent chance he could play this week. So
How far can he throw from his knees? That's where he's going to go from.
I think you're down. If you're on your knees.
Only if you're touched.
Yeah, that's a good point.
you just start getting the snap from your knee.
He's rolling
Can't
back.
twist my ankles if I'm not on him.
Rolling back.
The center hikes the ball and forces him backwards.
It gives a whole new definition of a quarterback rolling out.
Rolling out of the pocket. Still rolling into the sideline.
What is he rolling on? Like a wheelchair? Or has he got like Skechers Heelys on? What is he doing here?
I like the wheelie.
Hey, they see him rolling. They're hating. So moving on. Carson Wentz might play this week though.
Yeah, who knows?
Saying there's a chance.
The better chance he gets hurt week 3 than anything else. So if he's in there, cross your fingers. But quarterback 16.
Quarterback 16.
Things are looking up.
And he just played the Rams too. I mean, got to get easier. He gets to play the Texans and the Jaguars twice.
To be fair, the defenses do get easier going forward. Like he had a tough 2 weeks.
Yep.
He paid for it.
He did.
With his ankles.
He gets 4 games against the Jaguars and the Houston Texans. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's a lot of tape. Like tape up my ankles. He's like,
Just put me in, coach.
he's
I got
like
my
Ralphie
Heelys
from
on.
the Christmas Story. Like I can't put my arms down, but it's his ankles. Ugh. Deontay Johnson, lower body injury, not considered serious. Chance to play this week. Deontay Johnson, king of the minor injuries, but
It really is.
This one happened on the very last,
very last play.
worst time ever, the very last play of the game. It was just one of these fluky. It wasn't a Hail Mary, but they were just going to flip the ball all around, lateral it all around, and he hurts his knee on a totally pointless play, man. So that's a bummer because he's been having a good start to the season.
Yeah, he's looked pretty good. They're targeting him quite a bit.
And the drops have gone away completely.
Zero drops so far.
Zero drops on 22 targets. So.
It's a good start. We got to see it continue, but that's a good start.
It's one of those situations that we talked about so far in the 2 weeks in the season. It's played out exactly what we thought. Like Deontay Johnson's the target hog. Chase Claypool's the deep threat. And Juju's kind of like you should have sold when you had the opportunity.
Well, you still have a chance. He did get a touchdown this week, but it was on an end around. So it wasn't even a receiving touchdown. They kind of gave him a decent amount of targets early, and then they just completely went away from him. Obviously, the offense wasn't looking that effective. So I think they were seeing that it wasn't doing too much.
Touchdown bonus points. Chance to get your foot on that end around on an ass out the doors on the trade.
Keep on keeping on.
Dude, you think you get a first for Juju on name value?
No way. At this point,
I mean, dude.
Probably not in Superflex. Maybe in 1 QB. But you probably could get 2 seconds.
Maybe there's I think 2 seconds is probably a more realistic goal for him.
Yeah, God, what a precipitous
What a
drop.
fall.
He was like
Nice.
consensus top 10 pick 2-3 years ago.
Not for me. Never have, never will. But maybe bounce back.
Maybe. Saying there's a chance.
Maybe not. Moving on, Deontay Johnson.
We already talked about
I
him.
know this is going to just go with the card. Started saying it.
Deontay Johnson is the guy we just talked about, and Jarvis
I know.
Landry.
I would never cut you off, and you just cut me off.
the
I'm
next-
so sorry.
I know.
I feel terrible.
No, that was my
Who are we
bad.
talking about next?
Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry.
What happened to him?
Oh man, he got what was it 3 plays into the game?
First play. His
Oh,
very
it was-
first
it was
catch.
The first, it was his first catch.
Yeah, maybe the third play. Very first catch.
Yeah, let's hope OBJ is going to be back because he's headed to the IR.
He is coming back. It's. I think it's like he's. I think from what I'm hearing,
It's
he's already coming
sounding
back.
very positive.
I almost died at that game, by the way.
Why did you almost?
Well, it was opening day for the Browns. I went tailgating. I went to a White Claw sponsored event.
Oh,
'cause my
wow.
buddy's the big time wig over there, So I got to go drink all
you,
the.
high roller.
I was drinking Miller Lights, but it was all the free White Claw and Miller Light you wanted to.
They're sister companies.
And I was. They were not. They same distributor, not sister company.
There you go. Same distributor.
The same guy who owns Mike Hard Lemonade owns White Claw. He
Okay.
started White Claw, and he's the sole owner. The dude's doing very well for himself.
Yeah, he is.
And I drank a lot as usual. I had this really good picture where I tied my shirt up into like a how the girls tie their shirt up into a bow.
Oh wow.
At the tailgate.
Little belly shirt action.
I was just being a fancy bitch, And then so I drank a lot, and then it was my seats. So my seats are in the 10-yard line behind the Browns bench, and in the wintertime they're great because the sun's directly on you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But you're blazing hip hop and R&B.
But late September, when it's still 90 degrees out.
Your nose is a little red.
Yeah. Call me Rudolph, okay?
Yeah, you got a little sunburn.
I was literally cooking. Like, if you would have ate me, I was medium rare. Like, that's where I was at that point in time. And I got home. I had to have something like heat stroke. Like, because I felt terrible. My mom was like, because you drank too much. I'm like, no. I'm like, I feel like I don't ever get headaches. I had a huge headache, and I felt nauseous.
You were suffering from the dehydration.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm here today. I'm alive.
You're alive.
God bless me. So Jarvis Landry, not doing as good as I am. He's out 3 to 8 weeks with MCL sprain, and they put him on IR today, so like make it 3. But you mentioned Odell Beckham likely to come back this week. The good news about that and why I feel confident to be able to put him in my lineup was Stefanski's been saying the whole time, the reason he hasn't played yet, even though the videos show him like he looks okay, is we're not going to put him out there until he gives us 100%. Like, we don't want 75% out there of snaps. We don't want to work him in. We want to put him out there, want him to be 100% and contribute. So if he's going to be out there and playing, he's going to be the number one receiver in this offense. He's going to play the Chicago Bears. The Bears can be thrown on. So look for Odell to hopefully start a bounce back season, not only for him, but for me. Yes. I need it because I need a Super Bowl win. Darrell Henderson, Mr. Darrell Henderson himself was what we kind of talked about before the year. He is just...
He's always banged up.
He's always banged up. He also has a rib injury. Still no barbecue, but the ribs are there.
The ribs are there.
And the teams are optimistic about him playing this week, but this could lead a little more of a Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson timeshare.
Yeah, and obviously Sony came into that game after Henderson went out, and I think he did well. I mean, I think it was 4.6 yards per carry, I believe.
More than Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
He averaged like 4.1.
So he looked good in the offense. It seems like, I'm guessing it's probably a pared down version still, because he probably doesn't know everything that the whole Sean McVay offense yet. But I would think that the rib injury, it's in and of itself at the running back position would be a little bit
tough one,
a little bit more difficult. So yeah, I would think that this week, especially Sony Michel, is going to be featured quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely when Darrell Henderson's the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he's likely not going to be able to play through all that without getting a little bit more banged up. Put Sony Michel in a spot. Maybe if you have a flex play, you need a little bit of help there. He might give you enough to actually contribute.
And Sony looks good too.
He does,
and that's the thing. Like, he finally looks like he has some juice in his legs back.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he can do with this kind of expanded opportunity here in LA.
Look for the Sony Michel breakout game. Oof. I don't know. Bold.
136 yards and touchdown. What do you think?
Command B. Whoa! Bold predictions back.
There it is.
He was on the COVID list, people, but he's back with bold predictions. Wasn't Sony Michel on my bold predictions list too?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, hit the horn. Throw that horn in the garbage.
Yeah, that horn sounds
that horn has COVID.
Yeah, that horn has about 73% capabilities right now.
Get that horn to yourself. Andy Dalton, bone bruise, out this week. Justin Fields will make his NFL debut on the road
as a starter
this week as the starter versus my Cleveland Browns. Look for him to get destroyed. Personal prediction.
Here we go. I mean, obviously, this was kind of a matter of time, I think, and they're saying, publicly, and they being Matt Nagy, that Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback when he's healthy. But we all know that if Justin Fields comes and
if he balls out,
he's going to keep that job. So we'll see. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag with him, I feel like.
Didn't look good. So coming in relief does not look good.
But here's the interesting thing. He could play. This is the opposite of the Mac Jones effect. He could come in and have a very bad NFL game and still have a very good fantasy game just from the rushing production. In his game last week, I think he had like 12 pass attempts, but 9 rush attempts. Like he was running the ball quite a bit. That we know the offensive line isn't that great. Guys like Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney are going to be coming after him.
And what I'm interested here is I think this is a really good opportunity for the Browns to use Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to get preset for Lamar Jackson. Who they drafted JOK to kind of like play that role, that Joker role to spy on Lamar Jackson, to spy on Patrick Mahomes. So I think this would be a good test for him and the Browns defense. I think it could cause some trouble for Justin Fields, who under pressure, that was his biggest knock coming in the league, is how he performs under pressure.
Definitely. Yeah.
And last week he didn't look that great, and that's why I had Zach Wilson as my clear-cut number 2. That was the one worry I had about Justin Fields, where I didn't have the same worry about Zach Wilson, who threw 4 interceptions last week and 0 touchdowns. But that's okay. Peyton Manning had like 29 interceptions his rookie year. Look at how that turned out.
Sure. They're just learning experiences.
Guys, there
we go.
On
He's
ESPN
learning
Monday
a
Football.
lot.
He is learning a lot.
I don't know about them ghosts.
Oh, no.
Another guy, a couple more guys go to IR. Nico Collins, one of our guys out of Michigan there for the Texans.
He looked
Texans
good
keep
early
it
on
break.
in that game, too.
It
Did.
was a nice catch, 30-yard play,
Yeah.
and then
Oops, there goes my shoulder. And then following him is the unluckiest quarterback in the history of quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor. Messes up his hamstring really bad. He goes to IR as well.
hey, you got a starting job. Just kidding.
Just kidding. You got Davis Mills.
And he looked good. He looked good in game one.
He scared me a little bit.
He looked really good in the first half versus the Browns with the terrible Texans. I mean, that's their new name. They're not the Houston Texans. They're the terrible Texans. TTs. Calm down, pervert. And, Tyrod Taylor. Terrible Texans.
Oh,
wow,
my
look at all these
gosh.
T's. T's.
Tease.
Yeah, I got an 8th grade sense of humor. I'm not ashamed of it. So Tyrod Taylor, he goes to an IR. Unluckiest guy of all time.
For sure.
I mean, every time this guy's like, okay, you're the quarterback. You're the guy. Come here, let me stab you in the lungs with a needle. They're like, what?
Come here. Let me
You're
get
the
that.
guy.
Let me get that hamstring.
You're the guy. Let me say hamstring. Oh, crack. Like,
What happened with Baker?
He fell on his hand and broke his pinky
Okay. Yeah,
on
it
Thursday
was-
Night Football.
It was something.
I'm sure it's the
Yeah.
greatest
The
game I've ever
Jets.
been to my
Just
life.
couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, I literally texted my wife that night. I was like, I'm questioning my sexuality. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, are you watching this game?
Baker's on fire.
He's on fire. So, those are the injuries this week. Now let's talk about something else, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about some players that have had a little bit of slow starts. It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. Very small sample size.
Super small.
Itty bitty.
Itty bitty.
But
don't stand up.
These still could be concerned. So I want you guys to tell me how concerned you are after these first 2 weeks. First guy on the list here, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
What's our scale?
1 to 10. 1 being not concerned in the least. 10 being like, holy crap, what the heck am I going to do with this player?
Oh my God, Matt Scott Corona is going to French kiss me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Super concerned that was going to happen.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 27 attempts, only 89 yards, which averages about 3.3 yards per carry. No touchdowns, only 3 targets over the 2 games in the passing game, 3 receptions, 29 yards, and a fumble. How concerned are we about Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I'm at a 7.5.
Oof.
I'm concerned.
That is super concerned.
I'm concerned because they're just not using them.
They just are
They're
not using him.
Using them. And listen, when you got Travis Kelce and you got Pat Mahomes and you got Tyreek Hill,
Yep.
I understand. But what I think this does is let me put it this way. I'm at a 7.5 for this year. I'm not like crazy concerned long term because eventually, like Travis Kelce's, he's 32. You know, like he can't play forever. They're gonna have to use Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Maybe they're gonna use him a little bit later in the season, and something happens to Mahomes. Still think he's talented. I think he looks good when he runs the ball, when he gets the opportunity there.
He looks great in small spaces. I mean, like confined areas.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean that to be a slight on him because he's short.
He looks really good when people are shorting.
He moves very well laterally still. But what week was it that he sprained his ankle in the preseason? Like was it week 2 that he sprained his ankle?
It might have been.
I'm just wondering a little bit out loud if that is still affecting him, and they're kind of scaling back things for him.
Potentially. My biggest concern is they didn't use him at all in the passing game last year.
Yeah.
And they're still just not using him in the passing game. Like, it's just...
That's the weirdest thing. That's the biggest concern.
And that's something that's why in my evaluation process this year that I kind of just threw that out the window of, how good are they at catching passes? It's more just, can they possibly catch passes in an offense? Yes or no? Because that's the thing. We've seen all of these really good pass catchers. Josh Jacobs was same way. We're like, such a good pass catcher. He's going to be so great in that role. And they just don't use him in that role. So it really comes down to what are the offensive coordinators doing and what are the quarterbacks' preferences in these offenses. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's more Andy Reid. My guess is probably more Pat Mahomes because we've seen Andy Reid use a lot of pass catching backs in the past. So it's probably more Pat Mahomes that just he would rather take off and run it, or he's just going to at times just chuck it and see if he can make a miracle happen anyway. And a lot of times he does. He's just that talented and that successful that he just doesn't want to give up on plays. And I think that's the way that he probably looks at it as, if I'm checking down, I'm just giving up on this play. But Ray, our buddy Ray GQ even tweeted out about how there was a screen pass that was supposed to go to him, and then he like looked off Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the screen pass and went another direction. He was like, at that point, I knew it. Like, it's over. So I think that's my biggest concern is just I don't know that this is ever going to be a 50, 60 catch guy. I think we're looking at a 25, 30 catch guy, and with not a lot of rushing volume, not a lot of work along the goal line, that's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
7.5.
It's a bummer because obviously Andy Reid he convinced us by saying like, hey, this guy he reminds me of a Westbrook type of guy, and he hasn't been using him.
So why don't you use him like Brian Westbrook, buddy? Come on, pal.
So I guess we'll see. I don't know.
Walrus looking mustache over there lying through your teeth. I can't tell because I can't see your teeth behind that mustache.
Yeah, that's why he can lie right through him.
Yeah, I clears it. I don't even know if you have teeth, honestly. Giant fibbery going on over there.
He does. He eats a lot of cheeseburgers. So
I'm concerned, but I'm still optimistic.
Okay.
My fingers are crossed. That's how concerned I am. Though.
Are you optimistic enough to go out and put your money where your mouth is and try to go out and
buy low?
Yeah, buy low on this guy?
Because I think you can right now.
I would.
I agree. I think this is an opportunity.
If I can get Clyde Edwards for a late first, yeah, I'm doing it all day. All day. You?
I am
You?
actually. I'm still there.
Late first for a young running back.
Yeah.
That's the main guy in his offense. Still, yes, I would still do
What if
it.
he comes back to you? My answer is easily yes on this, but he goes, listen, I can't take just the late first. I need your second too. I'm still easy, yeah. Second doesn't make a difference.
I don't know that it's easy for me
Easy
at
for
that
me.
point.
I'm not gonna let a second round pick take me off of a young running back who's a first round pick who's going to be there for at least 3 more years.
Second round picks are easy, I think, to part with. So from that standpoint, and if I look at it that way, then I wouldn't have a problem throwing it in to most trades. We'll put it that way.
Next.
Next guy on the list here. Actually, real quick before we get to that, I want to look at it in terms of other running backs because I think we would give up that price for almost any young running back.
Uh-huh.
Where is he at in comparison to guys that we drafted in a similar area, like him and Antonio Gibson? I know Antonio Gibson's been a little bit disappointing so far too. Would you rather have him or Antonio Gibson?
I look at them. Can I cop out and say I kind of look at them equally?
Okay, but if you had to take one right now, which one would you take?
I would take the guy that I scouted higher, and I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I would still take CEH.
I think I would take Gibson for me.
But it's really like I'm not arguing against it. Like it's really close. But like with the quarterback situation there, no long term situation there. Only really one big time weapon in Terry McLaurin. Logan Thomas is nice. They're still using J.D. McKissick in the passing game a ton too, which is
Especially in week 2, it like completely flipped on its head.
Week
yeah.
2 went bonkers.
It did.
yeah. So there's a little bit concern there too, and he's not like. If you're concerned about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then you got to be mildly concerned about Antonio Gibson too.
Similarly.
But they're neck and neck for me, so I'm not gonna argue either way.
What about the trio that always seems to stay linked together and they're in the same class of Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs? Where would he fit in that group of those guys?
He's ahead of. Wow, that's really tough. Josh Jacobs is to me underrated. He hasn't done much. Like he had those 2 touchdowns early saved, but he's been banged up. Hence why he's out now. He's probably gonna miss a couple weeks. Actually, they're saying Josh Jacobs. Yeah. So he's been banged up and still looked good week 1. Banged up. Kenyon Drake's not a worry whatsoever. It looks like they're even going to play Peyton Barber ahead of him. It seems like so that's not a worry there. So I do like
Kenyon
Josh
Drake is just a pass catcher.
It's a pass catcher.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't. I think they're all they're all right
around
there.
that
Like
same.
I like David Montgomery's upside, but I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire ahead of David Montgomery. I like Josh Jacobs. I would probably still take Clyde Edwards-Helaire ahead of Josh Jacobs, but that's again I'm flipping a coin. Who's the other one?
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders. Yep.
I would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Miles Sanders too.
Okay.
I'm going straight upside.
Josh
in
Jacobs
offense.
is definitely ahead of him in my opinion, and then everyone else is behind him.
Okay.
I can live with that. I was real close to saying, yeah, Josh Jacobs. It's the Raiders themselves. It's not Josh Jacobs that worries me. It's just the Raiders and how they constantly are just like bringing everybody's running back.
Josh Jacobs last year was like running back
8.
Yeah, he was up there pretty high. I didn't know that he was running back. I didn't know that he made the running back one list.
He did.
Did he make it? Okay.
Yep.
So he was a low end running back one last year,
And
he
partly
didn't
on
have-
health, but
and he didn't have a ton of receptions or anything like that. So
It's a war of attrition.
It's something he could definitely replicate.
I think Chubb was 8, so I think he was a little bit behind Chubb, but he was a running back one last year.
All right.
All right. Next guy, Zach Wilson. Really the big thing here was the 4 interception game. He has 5 total on the season so far. Is this just he's a rookie?
He's a rookie.
So closer to 1, I'm assuming?
I am literally a 1 because
Literally 1.
every rookie has those games that go to these bad teams. We're like, oh wow, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Like you learn from that. Right. You know, like you got to learn from that. The question is, can he learn from it? I think he can. I'm still a Zach Wilson believer. Any kind of window that opens up on him and to buy in Superflex, I am still buying. I still like Zach Wilson.
So this really didn't change anything for you at all?
Literally didn't change anything whatsoever. The
this
Jets
was
are a bad
anything change
football
for you?
team.
This was a bad football game against one of the toughest defensive coordinators in the league.
Yeah.
That really has made his money destroying young quarterbacks throughout the years. So it doesn't shock me that he had a bad game, and I'm looking for him to bounce back. I'm not worried about him. I think it's a bad game, and I still like a lot of what he does. So I'm still totally on board. And like you said, Rich, if it opened up a window in Superflex, I'd be all over buying him.
Like I said, if I could trade Mac Jones for him today, I would do it today.
Oh, yeah. I think I would as well. I think the upside, because of the rushing upside that he has, and I like some of the young pieces that are around him, and even some of the veterans like Corey Davis, I like some of the pieces that they have there. So I would say I'm a little bit more concerned. I'm like a 2.5, which is still not really panicking much. But I want to see some glimpses of what could be. I haven't seen a lot of glimpses yet, and that's what I'm kind of waiting to see.
It's week 2.
Yeah.
He hasn't even had his full healthy receiving core totally there.
That's true.
If I could take a top 8 right now, static category finish of Jared Goff, and somebody get excited about that in Superflex League and flip him for Zach Wilson, I'm making that move too. So
all day.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
All day. All right, where are we at on Brandon Aiyuk? Over 2 games, just 2 total targets, 1 reception for 6 yards. Where are we at on Brandon Aiyuk?
I'm a 9.
9. Woo.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the heck happened during this spring here, where he went from this guy that, obviously last year, that end of the year, and he was on a tear. He was this. I would have expected him to be the wide receiver 1 this year with kind of Debo taking a backseat to where he is now. I have no idea how he got here, but we're here, and I'm worried. So he got in the doghouse somehow. Something that he did in practice rubbed Kyle the wrong way, and it has to be more than just a little injury. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like something else had to have happened to get where we're at, where he's on the field. He's still not getting targeted. You know what I mean? Like he's active for the game. He's in there. He almost a dead even timeshare with Trent Sherfield, but he's still not getting targeted while he's in the game. Like it
is odd.
It's very weird, and it seems like I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Kyle Shanahan almost seems a little immature,
A little petty. Yeah.
little petty with the way he holds these kind of grudges, and it sucks because he's a really good offensive coordinator, and that the more weapons he has, probably the more open up this offense could be. So I don't know why he's the way he is, but he is. So we're all going to have to deal with it, I guess, as fantasy owners. So I don't know. Brandon Aiyuk right now, I'm concerned it's going to take probably an injury ahead of him at this point for him to get back into the good graces and have a significant role.
I part of it is this. The other part that is a worry for me too is this is something that I remember talking about in the offseason. I wasn't sure that this offense could sustain 3 guys really doing it, with George Kittle being, a top 5 tight end, and both of those guys being like wide receiver 2s. I just didn't know if there was enough passing volume to go around to do it. Maybe that could change if and when Trey Lance becomes the guy, and if he's really the guy that his upside would suggest, maybe that could change. But I just don't see how in a Jimmy Garoppolo offense that could be. And it looks like Debo's really established himself.
Debo's the man.
And
it's
George,
awesome, yeah.
And George Kittle's still George Kittle, even though he's had kind of a disappointing start. He's still George Kittle, so I think this is going to be the odd man out even if he wasn't in the doghouse, I think it was still going to end up being that way. Either that or they all cannibalize each other. So I think we would rather have it be where one receiver is doing well and we still have George Kittle and then one guy's out. But I do feel bad for Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I've been a massive Deebo Samuel fan since he's come out. Since I'm at the Senior Bowl, gave him a first-round grade right there at the end. Put him. Actually, he's the one that bumped Terry McLaurin out of our first-round grades. It was Deebo Samuel that bumped him out there. And I remember I said I would love to see him go to San Francisco. And you mentioned Kyle Shanahan. He has a history of doing it. He's been a prime wide receiver like target guy. Like, and it shows. Deebo Samuel is currently wide receiver 3 overall, and he deserves it. He's a very electric football player. Even when Trey Lance comes in, it doesn't scare me off. I would figure Trey Lance, Deebo Samuel is a great safety net for a young quarterback too. So I'm really concerned about Brandon Aiyuk because, like Matt mentioned, the way Kyle Shanahan coaches, like it's gonna be hard for him to come outperform this. He's a first-round pick, so they have the 5th-year option on him. They might just pick that up, and like he might just come one of those players where like you just can't trust him, which sucks because you had such a good window. Like you could have got so much for Brandon Aiyuk this offseason, so much. So for me, I'm just really concerned. Everything Matt said is why I'm concerned.
Yep,
And that window is slammed shut. You know what I mean? That
closed completely.
Yeah, absolutely closed.
It literally. Good luck. Like you can't trade him now.
And it came out of nowhere. There was no
one saw it coming.
Right. I started him week 1. You know what I mean? Like I
think a lot of people did.
I had high aspirations for him to actually produce. I mean, he was like my flex play, but I still started him week 1 and got a big fat goose egg out of it.
All right. Last one for this section here. Saquon Barkley, 23 attempts, 83 yards, no touchdowns so far, 6 targets in the passing game, only 3 receptions for 13 yards. How concerned are we about Saquon Barkley?
I'm a 5.
Okay.
I'm not crazy concerned. I'm a little concerned. But at the same time, like coming off the ACL injury, came back pretty early.
He did.
Come back week 1. I think he even said something like, I just got to make sure I get a big run. Like I got to trust my knee a little bit more. I feel good. So I think we could kind of see it. I'm really interested to see how it goes this week. Daniel Jones is playing better. Sterling Shepard's helping that cause. Ken Galladay hasn't really done a whole lot. He's already chirping a ton there. So I think if this offensive line can just hold up a little bit better, because he's getting killed still behind the offensive line.
Right.
I'd like to see a little bit more out of the receiving game. That's because that's where his bread and butter lies for him to be a true running back 1. He had that big run, which was encouraging. But I'm middle of the road. I want to see something more. Let me put it this way. Week 2, I saw a little bit more. He had a big
that
run.
long run.
I saw a little bit more.
Yep.
So
A couple plays where he made some guys miss and stuff.
week 3, let's see another nice step forward. And then by week 4, like I need you back. So
I need it this week because this is the Atlanta defense he's going against.
True.
This should be his time to shine.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do it this week and he's still tentative and they're still tentative with him, like I'm starting to get a little worried because this is a wide open division. This division is absolutely wide open. They almost beat Washington last week. Even though Dallas has looked good at times, they're beatable still too. They need to get wins, and they're not getting wins with guys like Booker in the backfield. They need Saquon Barkley. So this, in my mind, would be a prime opportunity for them to eke out a win. I think they need him.
And this is weird for the Giants because they're going to decide, his 5th-year option's going to be coming up here. Then they're going to have to pay him. Are they going to pay him? What kind of money is he going to get? Because you can't pay him Christian McCaffrey money at this point. And like, does he seem like kind of player that is going to want Christian McCaffrey money? Because
the draft pedigree's there. He had the first amazing season.
The salary cap's going to go up tremendously. It's a real weird situation. I mean, obviously, if he doesn't sign there, it could be actually a blessing in disguise, and he can go somewhere else because
I wouldn't
much better offensive line.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it.
I wouldn't hate it
down
at all.
much.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't hate it.
That would actually be a blessing in disguise. Matt, where are you at worry-wise on Saquon?
I don't think I'm quite even as worried as you. You're at 5.
I felt 5 was a little high.
Yeah,
But
so
I just felt it was like right around the middle of the road because
I'm like at 3.5. So I'm not overly concerned. I think obviously he wasn't 100%. I don't think when the season started. I think he's working his way back in. He's probably a guy that would have benefited from maybe getting some preseason work if he was a couple weeks ahead of schedule. Just kind of get his confidence going. I think that's kind of where he's at right now. He's trying to get confidence in his leg, in his knee in particular, obviously. So, like you said, he's going to be up against a pretty weak defense coming up here. Hopefully, he does get it going. If he doesn't, I think my concern will go up a little bit. But at the same time, I'm really looking at him to be hitting his stride about 3 weeks from now. And that's if he's not, then my concern is going to go way up. Like, did the knee not heal correctly? Is he never going to be the player that he was before? And that's when it'll shoot up for me. But for now, it's not very high.
He needs to be more involved because at the same time, like we're like, oh, he's not doing as much. He's like, he's not being. He's not
getting a ton of touches.
I mean, on Thursday Night Football, he got 15 touches.
Right.
That's not enough, which means
they're easing him in.
They're easing him in.
They're easing him in.
This
is their plan. I mean, they're not telling us it's their plan, but their plan must be for them to get him a certain amount of touches per game and kind of work it up. And you know, maybe this week he gets 20. You know what I mean? And the following week he's finally, you know, blown open and he's up. Yeah, he's up to the full workload.
It's disappointing when you see names that are ahead of him in fantasy football production. Guys, he's so far down there. Like guys like Zach Moss, Michael Carter, who just played ahead of him, Jermichael Hasty ahead of him. You know, so it's
Zach Moss didn't even do much. He just scored 2 touchdowns this past week. Yep. So I mean,
more points than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, no, it definitely it's difficult to see those guys ahead of him, but Saquon is a far more talented running back, and once his knee is fully back underneath him, he'll be off and running again.
All right. Well, it might be a good time to actually buy some prediction strike stock in Saquon Barkley right now, because if we think that he's going to get back to himself, that could be a nice little payoff. And that's exactly what you get to do at predictionstrike.com. You get to buy, sell, hold shares of players just like you would the stock market. We saw Bitcoin take another nosedive this past week. I feel like every day I'm getting a notification. It's down 5%.
Yeah, 5%. What's going on with it? I haven't been paying attention, but I have noticed.
Yeah. I've seen it all drop again.
I've got a couple of thank you tweets on Twitter. Like a lot of people, because remember we said like if you've been in prediction strike and you're not a lot of movement because there's no games. Like people are now actually starting to make some pretty good money on prediction strike because all these guys we were talking about this off season, the value's going up. Guys like Hawkinson, you know, the people are like, I doubled my money so far.
Yeah. That was when we talked about we're like, how is Hawkinson so cheap? Like it was ridiculous, and so people were making tons of money. Right now, one of the guys that has the biggest drop is Amari Cooper. I think people are worried about the injury. He's down 15%. So maybe a good little opportunity to sneak in, get a share or two of Amari Cooper if we think he's going to bounce back, which I think he'll be just fine
do as well.
Long term. So that's what you get to do over at predictionstrike.com. Best of all, here at Dynasty Nerds, if you use the promo code DYNASTY, you get to get a free share of a player. So I'm probably targeting a guy like Amari Cooper where his stock's almost $8, so it's a little more expensive. I'm going to try to get that high price guy with my free share, and you get to do that with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code DYNASTY to receive a free share of your first deposit of $20 or more.
All right, so let's get into this last half of the show. Garrett, help us out.
Yeah, we're going to look at some week 2 studs. So we kind of talked about the duds and the guys that we're concerned about. But let's get a little more optimistic, a little more positive. Talk about some week 2 studs. Now I'm leaving out guys like CMC, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry. Like we know they're good. But I want to talk about some players that maybe have really increased their value overall, or are we thinking maybe some of these guys might be flukes, anything like that. So week 2 studs here, Rondale Moore. 8 targets, 7 receptions, 114 yards, 1 TD. And I think the biggest part of this is he's actually currently the leader in targets for the Arizona Cardinals. How are we feeling 2 weeks in about Rondale Moore?
Dude, call me the Tony Tiger because I feel great. This is fantastic because you mentioned he leads the team in targets, high draft capital, a player that I didn't love as much as everybody else does, but my friends in the Dynasty community like this guy. I remember in the draft, I took him, I had all these Elijah Moore shares. I'm like, you know what? I want one Rondale Moore share, and I took Rondale Moore ahead of Elijah Moore just because I'm in 20 Dynasty leagues.
Right.
A lot of people I respected, trusted this guy. I like this guy a lot. And he looks pretty good. I know he had that one big play that helps out the cause.
It was a broken play, yeah.
It was a completely broken play. The guy
was broken
wide.
Was not enough. Completely broken.
It was completely broken. There was nobody around him for 10 yards. The ball was fluttering in the air. He stopped and waited for the ball to come and caught it.
Man, it sounds like you're not a believer.
And ran.
It's fine.
Shun the non-believer.
But the rest of it,
77 of that 114 yards. Just to let you know. So that was 7 receptions for what, like 30-something yards or 40-something yards?
Boom, double-digit points.
It would be 6 receptions. You guys got to take away the reception.
For 40 yards. Yeah, double-digit points.
Whatever.
Either way, he's being
73%. What do you want from me? I can't do all this, man.
You're an accountant.
I know, but my brain's not all
Okay.
here.
All right. Fair.
He's being targeted. He's on a team with Kyler Murray. He's offsetting a Hall of Fame wide receiver who's on a long-term deal in DeAndre Hopkins. So their deals literally coincide with each other. Their running game's doo-doo butter as it is. Kyler Murray is the best runner on that football team. So for me, if he can give me, I can't remember where he stands on the year, but I saw him with a respectable wide receiver line for where he is currently on the year. If you can give me Rondale Moore at where he's at right now, wide receiver 18 on the year, which is a high-end wide receiver 2, mid-range wide receiver 2. Not high-end, mid-range wide receiver 2.
Which, by the way, could be way better than that. He's had 2 opportunities for touchdowns that just didn't work out. One was on an end around this week where he went into the end zone.
The one when he fumbled?
Yes, it was a weird fumble. Like I took the ball. It was kind of strange. And then the week before, there was a target in the end zone that the guy swatted away just at the last minute. So I mean, he's centimeters away from 2 additional touchdowns. So they're looking for him in the end zone. They're trying to get him the ball.
It's
super lucky, by the way, that they did not catch that ball because it was a fumble that happened right on the sideline. The defender caught it, but only got 1 foot down. So the ball went back to Arizona.
It's a game of inches.
It is.
But, I mean, right now, I love what I see right now. You said week 2 stud. I like it. I mean, when you look here, look at some of the primetime names he's outproduced from fantasy football production. Again, just how I don't get overly worried about players. I'm not saying this is like fact in stone, but right now, names that he's outproduced: DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf. These are all big-time names, Robert Woods, that you have on your roster that you expect to help you not early in the season, but all season long to be the dominant wide receiver. And Rondale Moore is produced it. And again, what I like here is how he leads the teams in targets and how he's being targeted and used in this offense, because that's where I'm looking at. I am not looking for, the fastest wide receiver. I'm not looking for Will Fullers. I'm looking for players that are going to score me fantasy football points. That's the game we play. We play fantasy football. When I play Dynasty fantasy football, I'm trying to get as young as possible, and the guys that can help me the long term, the guys that open good buy windows. So Rondale Moore, to me, is showing me enough early that if I was able to get him in anywhere from pick 13 to pick 15, then I'm a very, very happy owner, because that means I hit with my first round pick, unless I took Travis Etienne. But I have 2 really good promising players, right? I feel the same way if I have Elijah Moore too. Sure. Elijah Moore hasn't produced like Rondale Moore, but
a little better this week. He had the 4 catches, 40-some yards.
He's not wide receiver 18. All signs are pointing, what I'm saying right now, is Rondale Moore is going to be a factor for your Dynasty fantasy football team year 1. Yep. And not only a factor, but a difference maker. And that's fine. He could drop below all those guys I mentioned, which I assume he would. Yeah. But that's fine. Give me Rondale Moore production at wide receiver 28. Yeah. Give me high-end wide receiver 3 production out of my rookie. That's a difference maker, and I love it.
By the way, the only difference between Rondale Moore this week and Elijah Moore was that play that you were talking about, where he was wide ass open, and the throw took him out of bounds.
Matt, you seem like you're very much so a non-believer. Tell us why you're a non-believer.
No, I'm not a non-believer.
He's 5'1", sir.
He is. No, I don't care if he's short. That's fine. Elijah Moore's not like a tall guy either. It's not that I don't like him. It's not that I've ever not liked him. So I don't want to.
Never loved him.
I've never loved him. And besides this fluky play, like, he's just a mediocre wide receiver 3 type of guy that no one's getting hyped about at all.
I think it would be different if we didn't see him also have a good game last week too. So it's back-to-back good weeks where he's been targeted. He's also been used in the running game. And he's made plays.
No, I mean,
it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not the one play for me. It's the usage he's.
He had
being
like
used.
10 points last week, and take away this one fluky play, and he's middling down in this 10-point a second week in a row, and it's a nice start to a career, but it's not what everyone's making it after week 2. That's all I'm saying. So I don't want to be this rain on your parade type of guy, but it was a busted play, dude. It wasn't like he ran some spectacular route and got wide open. It was a busted play. Those aren't going to happen every week. And week 1, 10 points. Week 2, this big jump.
The crazy thing is, on this offense, you see the way Kyler Murray's been running around every single play. Something like this could happen every week with the way he's playing right now.
I don't want to put my fantasy stock in that crazy play happening.
To be fair, like I'm not going crazy over Rondale Moore. It's just going back to what I said. Like if I drafted him, I'm very happy.
For sure.
Like I'm not going crazy about him. I have a player that I know is going to be used in offense right away, and I have an option to use him early and hopefully often.
And it's a good thing. Like either way, even if he scored 10 points in back-to-back weeks, I would be happy if I drafted him in the late first, early second, or wherever the heck you got him. I would be happy with that start. But the way that he's being, I think, pumped up on fantasy Twitter right now is that he's did this amazing thing. It was a broken play that really elevated him into this amazing category that everyone's looking at. And I just don't want to hang my hat on those broken plays.
I hear you. That was one bit, but we have to remember that for most of these guys, a lot of their production comes on one big play here and there. Like Najee Harris, we would be talking about how bad Najee Harris would be doing right now.
We can still talk about how bad Najee Harris is.
If he didn't have that one touchdown catch.
Not him.
You know what I mean?
Offensive line, he just gets dominating behind the backfield.
But it did help that he got that one catch.
Where would Saquon Barkley be with that one big 40-yard run? He'd have negative fantasy points probably. That's where he'd be.
So I mean, I understand that play was a fluky play, but I still think we're looking at a guy that is going to be established in this offense, and it's the kind of offense we want him to be in.
I totally agree with all that, and I don't want to sound so negative, because like I said, I think it would be a good start to a career regardless without that big play, but just temper your enthusiasm a little bit. Without that, he'd be in the wide receiver 3
We're at the
range.
back end of the show.
Right.
We've spent a lot of time on the first guy you want to talk about.
All right, go ahead. Cooper
Kupp, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just like I said, Cooper Kupp, top 5 wide receiver this year. Wait,
He's back.
I said Robert Woods. Dang it.
He's the number 1 overall fantasy receiver after 2 weeks. Him and Matt Stafford have a really good connection.
Get breakfast every morning.
We thought they get breakfast every morning.
Who knew?
I wish they would have told me.
Yeah.
And that Robert Woods wasn't invited to breakfast.
You don't like pancakes? Jesus. Yeah, I mean, we all thought it was going to be Robert Woods that benefited, and it's Cooper Kupp. And look for Robert Woods to be the wide receiver 2, and look for Cooper Kupp to have a top 8 fantasy football finish this year. Yeah.
He's getting targeted all over the field, in the end zone, everywhere. So down the field, close to the field.
He's the guy that he's looking for.
He'll be Cooper Kupp will most likely, if he stays healthy, be a top 6 fantasy football wide receiver for the 21
It would not
season.
surprise me, especially after this start. We will talk about it in the NerdHerd episode, depending on what order you listen to these in. But Michael Pittman Jr., 12 targets, 8 receptions, 123 yards. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on him because we're about to talk about him in the NerdHerd. But
we all love him, and we tell you exactly what we think you should buy him for and what we think he's worth in the NerdHerd episode.
Yep. A guy we really like. Somebody we didn't really see coming. I don't think anyone really saw coming. KJ Osborn, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 91 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a wide receiver for the Vikings. And actually, production-wise right now, KJ Osborn and Thielen are actually outproducing Justin Jefferson. Now, we do not expect that to continue. Nope. Justin Jefferson's one of the best receivers in the league, but they're actually really looking for this guy.
They're looking for him, and if you remember week 1 and week 2 last year at this time, it was BC Johnson was outproducing Justin Jefferson. Jefferson wasn't very good in this year, so it wasn't until week 3 that Jefferson came back on, and from week 3 on, he was a top 4 fantasy football receiver.
Right.
It's the way it's worked out right now. I think
this lasts.
No, I think this is a product of the all the coverage rolling to the other 2 guys. He's getting better looks. Yeah. It's eventually going to start that they're going to have to start paying attention to this 3rd guy, and then they're kind of screwed. They're going to have to pick their poison between Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. So it's going to start spreading out, I think. And it's not like the other guys haven't produced, but he's just been getting a ton of targets. I mean, 9 targets.
Quick sell then. Are we trying to flip this guy
I don't
real
think
quick?
you're going to get anything for him. I'd rather just hold on to him and hope in case
it's a
Thielen
hold.
gets hurt.
Yeah, I think it is a hold because Thielen is 31 years old. This guy's 24, just going into his 2nd year here, and he was a 5th-round draft pick. And I think he's worth the hold just to see if he's the guy that's going to be the guy across from Justin Jefferson.
The hold's worth more than a return in Dynasty. Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I'm holding on to him no matter what, just because what it shows me, if one of these guys goes down, he can produce for your fantasy team. So he's a great bottom of the roster kind of guy. But I'm not. Yeah, the 1-2 it's clear as day
for sure. Here we go, Matt. Do you want to read the stat line for this guy here?
Mike Williams, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown.
What does that translate to over a full season?
Well, Rich, I went into it a little bit on the NerdHerd episode. You want me to do it here on the freebie?
Do it again.
These people need to know.
No, all right. So far he's got 22 targets through 2 games, and roughly, not even roughly, exactly, that over extrapolated over the 17-game season. That's 187 targets for my man, Mike Williams. And over the last 2 years, he's only had 175 targets. And over those 2 years, he's only had over 1,700 yards receiving. So mark it down. Mike Williams this year is going to have about 1,800 yards receiving. No,
Done.
We've been telling you for 5 years now that this is going to happen.
Right.
It just took us 5 years.
We were just wrong for 4 of them.
And it
doesn't matter if you're right in the end.
Exactly. I mean, at the same time, we were telling we were right for Derrick Henry for 3 years, and we were.
It's true.
And now we're dead wrong.
Things change.
But, when Joe Lombardi came in this offense, he said Mike Williams will be the X receiver playing the Michael Thomas role. We will target him. We'll use him. His ADOT has dropped. His receptions have gone up. His targets have gone up. He's being used the way we always want him to be used. He's a playmaker. He's making $15 million a year. Let's see if we can get signed to an extension with Justin Herbert. That's a real big question mark here, but he's probably going to finish as a nice high-end wide receiver too this year.
And that was a great point about the ADOT. I mean, that was a thing that's really shrunk over the past few years. It was up at like 20 yards a catch back in 2019, and last year it got reeled in a little bit, and it was down at like 15 yards per target or per catch, and now it's down to like 11 and a half.
I thought it was even lower than that. I thought it was like 9.7.
No, it's 11. It's 11.5 through the 2 games here. So it's very encouraging because it's not these low percentage passes anymore that they're all the way down the field. He's getting involved a lot closer to the line of scrimmage, so they're higher percentage catches, and he's running with it, and he's finally blossoming, I guess, into the wide receiver that I thought he could be.
Wide receiver number 7 on the year currently.
6, I think.
He is 7. He's right behind Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown
if
has
you say so.
30.7. Oh, that's standard. I'm sorry.
I
am looking the wrong league. He was tied with 5, if I saw earlier. He's tied for 5 overall with Amari Cooper with 44.3 points there, right behind Adam Thielen. So, yeah, I mean, Mike Williams right now, it's easy to say if he maintains the wide receiver 1. I would imagine. Maybe he does. Maybe Mike Williams finishes as a wide receiver 1. I'd see him more around like 13, 14 by the time the year ends. But
I mean, obviously 187 targets would be ridiculous to keep up that pace.
But realistically,
Michael Thomas did it.
But Michael Thomas did it, so we'll see.
Nice.
All right.
I'm buying Mike Williams if I can. I can
totally buying Mike Williams.
If people are trying to sell the hype, I'm buying the hype. I'm paying a first-round pick for Mike Williams.
Love Mike
Late first-round pick.
Speaking of the hype, Tony Pollard. There's been some Tony Pollard truthers that have definitely gotten what they've wanted so far.
Yeah, they're annoying.
And this week, 13 attempts, which for a backup, so to speak, running back is a lot of attempts. 109 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 31 yards. Only 3 fewer carries than Zeke this past week. What are we making of Tony Pollard?
He looks absolutely fantastic. He does. Yeah. He looks explosive.
He looks dynamic with the ball in his hand.
You can start him on a week. You could start him as a running back too. You could start him on a weekly basis. He looks great, and there's no hiding. It's a really weird situation for the Cowboys because you're paying Zeke all this money, and you can literally get the same thing on Tony Pollard. So the problem is you're paying Zeke all this money, and Zeke's going to get his no matter what. So unless Zeke leaves, you're looking at like a Kareem Hunt situation. You're looking at like a running back too.
And I think that's kind of where we're at now, where I wouldn't be surprised if Zeke was used more similarly to Nick Chubb, and Tony Pollard's used kind of like Kareem Hunt, where he's more of the passing down guy, but he can absolutely have series where he just takes over and he's the guy for the series and would have no problem doing that. So I think that's the tough part is this. Now both of them have cap ceilings, though. I don't think Zeke, you're selling Zeke. I don't think he's dead to the world. But that top 5 finish that we thought could happen, I think is now unrealistic.
Yeah, you have to temper your enthusiasm for sure.
I say my bold prediction we finish as running back 1, and I'm not even know he's going to finish like 1 overall. I don't even know if he's going to finish as a running back 1, but we'll see.
We will see.
There's a lot to go. There's a long race here and an extended season longest season we'll ever see. So he looks good.
He does. 2 more, and then we'll wrap up here. Rob Gronkowski, another 2 touchdown week, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 39 yards. He is only the second tight end to start the season with 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games. That's since 1994. So Rob Gronkowski, how long do we think this lasts? Has he, for at least the season, entered into that Kelsey, Kittle, Waller type of tier? Or do we think this is just as a hot streak and then it's going to be gone?
This is no hot streak.
Yeah.
Last year he was playing himself back into football shape,
right?
And by the end of the year he was back in football shape and he dominated in the playoffs. And he's picking up right where he left off. He's a target hog. Brady's looking for him in all the key situations, down in the red zone to move the chains, and he's here to stay.
I was dead wrong about him. As
long as he stays healthy, he's here to stay.
I thought he was a name value kind of player. I thought that he would not hold much fantasy relevance. I thought O.J. Howard, they're paying him good money to come back in this year. I was dead wrong because, like Matt said, I believe I'm piggybacking on everything you just said. And the thing is, when I watch him play, which I've watched both games, he looks
like his old
like the
self.
Gronk of old. He looks damn good, and he's the greatest tight end to ever play. Like he's the most. I know Travis Kelce's the greatest tight end. I mean, you can argue there, but
he might be the greatest receiving. But I mean, Gronk does it all. He's a very good blocker
the most
as well.
Dominant tight end. Him and Kelce are they're up there. You know what I mean? Because now that Kelce's done for 5 years straight, but like it's easy to like remember what you've done for me lately. If you go back pre-Kelce, Gronk was on a different level all by himself.
Yep.
So yeah, I think he's gonna be a high end tight end for the whole season. We can stay healthy, and Gronk. I've seen nothing to sway for that. And he's have so many touchdowns in this offense. Because like Matt said, he's looking for him in the red zone. There's a very good chance Rob Gronkowski, the completely guy you would not think of, can finish his tight end 1 overall on the fact that he's going to have so many touchdowns. Like he's going to have double-digit touchdowns.
Don't disagree.
So
they're going up and down the field, and he's sitting there right there at the goal line waiting.
Brady's unstoppable. Yep. It's the touchdowns will be there that puts him in there's a chance for him to be tight end 1 overall.
Well, just as Gronk came back from the dead, Sam Darnold might have come back from the dead as well. Sam Darnold so far has played really well. Panthers are 2-0 this past week, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is Sam Darnold now a legitimate fantasy relevant quarterback? And is this going to continue?
He's 23 years old. I think. I mean, he was 20 years old when he came into the league. So 23, 24. He's super young.
Whatever. 23 to 25.
He's younger than Joe Burrow.
It literally puts in stone, find me 2 tablets of stone and start carving into them because these are the words of God.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Adam Gase is the devil. He's the worst coach in the history of the NFL.
There's a reason he's not coaching right now.
Every player he's ever touched, he's ruined and made look terrible. And the moment that these players escape his red devil clutches, they thrive and prosper in the light of the Lord.
This is going to be the pull quote for the show this week, isn't it?
This is it's a fact. These are facts. I can only go with what I could see. They're facts. These are facts. Sam Darnold looks decent, and Joe Brady's going to be a head coach, right? He's working with a really good offensive coordinator. He's got really good weapons around him. He's got a really good run game, and his offensive line's okay. You know what I mean? So to me, Sam Darnold's got so much to prove. If they can lock him up to a long-term deal, and he could have these weapons around him. Christian McCaffrey's there for long-term. They got Robbie Anderson. Terrace Marshall is going to be there for 4 years, and DJ Moore's not going anywhere. So to me, Sam Darnold, if somebody's trying to get out and looking for this short window, I am buying Sam Darnold in Superflex more so than anything. It's just because Adam Gase is the root of all evil when it comes to fantasy football production. He will drag down
Dig it out.
If all of a sudden Adam Gase was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brady would have had 5 interceptions, no touchdowns instead of 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's how far his evil can go. That's how far it can go.
That's terrible.
That is bad. I don't even know how to follow that up.
The truth is evil
I honestly don't. What was the question?
Sam Darnold.
How great googly moogly is those eyes of the devil?
Sam
We
Darnold.
just lost camera on YouTube.
I think he's salvageable.
See, look, Adam Gase strikes again. We're in the
He
darkness.
shut down our podcast.
Darkness.
Yeah, we were done anyway.
So that's it. You won't throw your darkness on me, Adam Gase, because I'm getting out of here before you can take me down with you. We'll be back next week talking more Dynasty fantasy football. And again, check out our Dynasty Nerds NerdHerd episode. We're talking our weekly buys and sells. Make sure to check out dynastynerds.com where you have all the tools you need to dominate your fantasy football league. Listen, you might be right now feeling very comfortable. It's early in the season, but as these bye weeks start to come up here in the next couple of weeks, and as your teams start to either prosper or fall back, you got to make sure you're making the right moves for your Dynasty team to put yourself in a position to dominate for years to come. DynastyNerds.com, the Dynasty GM. It's called the Dynasty GM for that reason. It's there to help you manage your Dynasty fantasy football team. It's going to help you make the best, quickest decisions for your Dynasty fantasy football team. It's free to try right now on DynastyNerds.com. Get on there today, free 3-day trial. Check it out. You will see for a fact why it's a tool for you and why you need this if you play Dynasty fantasy football. And of course, you get so much more with that. You get the Dynasty Nerds film room.
Yep.
We update that every single week. Every time there's college football games, we're updating our Dynasty Nerds film room with all 22 film out there of every rookie prospect to come out here. We have so much at DynastyNerds.com. Check it out today. It's my favorite website.
And it's only going to keep building. We just had a cool meeting just last night and kind of to preview some of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. And there's more cool stuff coming.
We just add that. We use a trade finder all the time. That was just added the GM. There will always be constant improvements. Remember, every time you sign up for the Dynasty Nerds, that money goes right back into the community to help you build the tools, help us build the tools that you need to dominate your fantasy football leagues. If you appreciate it, sign up. It's a good way to support the site. But remember, when you're supporting the site, you're not just supporting the site, you're supporting the game of Dynasty Fantasy Football and helping it grow. So we appreciate that as well. And of course, if you enjoy the show, leave us a rating and review on iTunes. We appreciate it. Keeps the show at the top of all fantasy football lists is where we like to be because I like to pat myself on the back.
There you go.
Absolutely. Adios.